Hello, everybody. It is I, your friendly INFP writer man, and today we're going to be looking at Chapter 3. But before we get on to that, are you guys interested in MBTI? Are you guys interested in our comic? Are you guys interested in behind the scenes? Are you guys interested in seeing both the strange and predictable? That would be me, and then maybe some other stuff down the line. Okay, so maybe the sales pitch wasn't the greatest, but that's kind of what we're talking about in chapter 3, is to arise a want in another person, an eager desire. Now, I'm not terribly good at that because I have absolutely no idea what people are expecting of me from this channel, so I just talk about things I'm excited about. And one of those things happens to be this book. So in chapter 3, it gets more practical in chapter 3, where it talks about trying to get people into I would say not necessarily buying stuff, because that would be the wrong word. Perhaps doing stuff, or doing stuff that you want them to do, but you don't make it seem like a chore, or you don't make it seem like, oh, I can't believe I have to do this. Like something that invokes a desire in them. And that is what chapter 3 looks at. And one of the things that it says, like right off the bat, is he who can do this has the whole world with him. He who cannot walks a lonely way. And for the context of it, it is talking about, so this entire chapter is talking about how to persuade somebody. And it's to view them as to what they want first, rather than what you want first. So you look at the person and go, okay, what are they looking for? What would help them help me, help them help me? What could I say that won't make me look like a selfish prick? So you go on from there, and you develop this understanding of what they want. Now, granted, I am not terribly good at this because I am, shall we say, quite oblivious to most things. Do I enjoy making stories? Yes. Do I enjoy ranting about my passions? Yes. Do I enjoy doing a multitude of other things? Yes. Do people enjoy watching me do that? But that's kind of what this book talks about, is like to have that key insight of what are other people looking for? What are you as a viewer looking for? What brings you enjoyment that I can fulfill for you? That's kind of what chapter 3 is looking at, if it makes sense. So one of the things that I highlighted, like right off the bat, it's on page 32 if you have the book, if you have the same book that I do, is first aroused in the other person an eager want. He who can do this has the whole world with him. He who cannot walks a lonely way. So it talks about how, like, these really poor people, like Carnegie when he was poor, and all these other people when they were poor, and how they were able to amass riches. And it was because they were able to understand what other people want and to deal with their wants first, rather than what they wanted. They wanted to become successful, sure, but they wanted to make the other people feel important. Remember, everybody has a feeling of importance, and they use that to gather a eager want, as this chapter puts it. So then another thing, it says, it goes on to the story of how they're talking about this kid, Tim, and he didn't want to go to kindergarten. And so the parents were like, okay, well, we got to figure out what we can do. And so nothing they said was inspiring him to go to kindergarten. So they figured, okay, well, what do people in kindergarten do? Because they figured a bit of show and tell would inspire Tim to want to go to kindergarten. So they decided on finger paints, they decided on all these other kind of activities. And when Tim came and checked out what they were doing and like the passion they were doing it in, he got excited and he wanted to do it too. And they're like, oh no, you have to go to kindergarten to learn how to finger paint. You have to go to kindergarten to learn how to do all these fun things. And when the parents woke up, they found Tim sitting at the door, or close to the door, already dressed, ready to go. And when asking like what he wanted, like, I want to go to kindergarten, because he saw them having such fun, he wanted to be part of it too. And then when he was told, you can't have this unless you go to kindergarten to learn how to do this, well, obviously it invoked a desire in him because he found it such fun. He thought the activity was so much fun that he too wanted to be part of it. And like from that, it states the next thing that I found quite interesting was, tomorrow you may want to persuade somebody to do something. Before you speak, pause and ask yourself, how can I make this person do it? Now, granted, I have been thinking about that. I have been thinking about that for quite a few days. Am I in the process of learning? Yes. Have I gotten to that mastery level? No. But I am learning. So there's that. There is that. If you guys are following my Twitter, or mostly my Twitter at this point, because it's not actually my Twitter, well, kind of. I run all the social media while the ISFJ artist, she runs all the art stuff and merch stuff, mostly the art for the merch stuff. I'd help market the merch stuff, but more merch stuff would have to be available, if that makes sense, which it does. So if you are reading or any of my tweets, you might have noticed a slight shift in how I have begun to do certain ones, specifically ones in response to people. I want to learn how to cater to the other person first, rather than cater to myself first. Make them enjoy what they're doing, and then go into what I enjoy about it, or what I achieved from it. It's always more important to give them that level of importance versus to have everything focus on myself. This is good advice for everybody, and I think this is highly why some things can get quite messy. So, moving on from there, he talks about chapter 3 talks about how the hotel had raised the prices. He went to talk to them, convinced them in by showing them the pros and cons of not tripling the price, and it was only a certain percentage, not triple the price. It was only like they lowered it quite a bit. They still raised it, but it wasn't as insane as the other ones, all because the guy didn't go yelling and screaming at them or sending them mean letters or anything like that. He just went over, showed them the pros and cons, and was able to get a reasonable price out of it, which was lower than the tripled the price. I'm having a horrible way of explaining this. Anyways, moving on from there, if you understood a lick of what I just said, he goes on to say that there is one secret to success. And it says, if there is any one secret to success, it lies in the ability to get the other points of view and see things from the other person's angle as well as from your own. And this is why I think certain topics are more and more ugly in today's society. Topics like politics, topics like religion, topics like human rights, topics like a multitude of things. Like, you name it, people will go bonkers whether they're going to send hateful slurs towards you, whether they're going to not listen to you at all. This right here states, before you go and be like everybody else who sends out messages like they're part of a mob, which, you know, a lot of that tends to happen via mob mentality, is to pause and think and go, okay, well, let's look at from that other person's perspective. Now, mind you, some things are, it's more beneficial as to look at why they would do something, but not necessarily approve of what they are doing, if that makes sense. But also not attack them, but also understand and use that understanding to invoke what you desire from them, if that makes any sense. Or maybe it might be too abstract. That's how I'm viewing it. I personally am viewing it in an abstract sort of way. I can't give you a practical example because I don't have any practical examples aside from what you can get from this book. Anyways, going on, it talks about a letter and how that letter was horribly written, and the person was like, look at how important I am. And speaking of which, if you guys are on YouTube, which you are obviously if you're watching this, but if you guys have ever gotten over to the motivational side of YouTube or the financial side of YouTube, you'll see certain ads pop up, be like, oh, look how great this person is. Oh, look how great I am. Oh, look what I'm doing. It's never a thing of, hey, this is how you can achieve this. It's never, these are the first 3 steps. If you want, like, it's always, I am doing better than you, so you should listen to me. Instead, it should be something more along the lines of, if you want to do better, I have some experience in this issue. So, you know what I'm trying to say? Maybe not. But that's kind of like, they need to flip their ads, because a lot of the times we'll see it and we're like, oh, we don't care, get on with it, Skip. And if people were to have that understanding as to how people act, now don't get me wrong, there are going to be plenty of people who click on those links and click on those ads because that's the way they're attracted to it. But I feel like more people would be attracted to it if it catered more clearly to another person's wants and desires versus I'm better than you. And at least that's how I've seen those ads. Just my take. Anyways, moving on. So that's kind of like the example of the letter they give was like, I'm better than you and I want you to do this things. Well, no, go screw yourself, essentially was the response. And then like a revised letter, which was a lot better. And it keeps going on about like examples upon examples on like not being very good in sales. And this is kind of like all about the sales pitch, chapter 3, and how to like give a successful sales pitch. And according to what this is saying, that a successful sale, or at least what I got from it, is that a successful sales pitch isn't one that elevates yourself. It's one that elevates another person. Or a successful way to get somebody else to do something isn't something, once again, that shows you're better than them, but shows that, hey, this is what you're capable of. And so it goes on with the third last point, which once again repeats, remember, first arouse in the other person an eager want. He who can do this, he has the whole world with him. He who cannot walks a lonely way. So principle 3 is, of course, arouse in the other person an eager want. And then it goes into the 3 fundamental techniques that we learned from chapter 1, 2, and 3, which was don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Very important. Principle 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. And then comes a bit like, all of these are practical. Some are harder than others. For me, Principle 3 is probably the hardest. And same with Principle 1 is quite hard, but if you're able to like bite your tongue, over time it can lessen. And then Principle 3, I guess, comes with being more observant of other people. And I think I have um, Principle 1 and 2 are Principle 1 and 3 are quite difficult actually for me. Principle 2 is fairly easy, give honest and sincere appreciation. If I think a person's doing good or if I like what they're doing, I will be excuse me, sincere about it. Principle 3, I've never been like the best talker and best communicator, and it makes sense. Like a lot of people are like, oh well, no, this is what makes sense, but also it says in the same chapter that 99% of the people forget to do this, or at least don't do it. So what can you do there? With that being said, that is chapter 3. I hope you got something from it, or maybe I was a bit too abstract or rambly. Other than that, I will see you guys for the 4th chapter. And yes, I do hope that you share, like, and subscribe, or whatever order that is supposed to be put into. Anyways, bye-bye!